What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here. Sheets should be back tonight. I don't know if he'll make it for the live show, but he should be back and fully back in business. Sheets, he always comes back from these things ready to go. So looking forward to having him back. Obviously had a good night last night. A little disappointed. I was actually going to talk about it real quick before I get into today's slate. It's just a 4-gamer today, but you can see that I was a quarter of a point back from taking down the 100K for first. That was a little bit tilting. Look, it's been a great month, so I can't really, get too upset about these kind of things. But this is one that I probably would just sit out the next day if it was in the past, because the prize difference between the quarter of a point is, it's worth 95,000. So it was a close night to taking it all down. We'll try it again tonight. I did try to update as much as I could throughout the Discord. Trying to have a little trouble with my late screen shares, but we've been doing some late swap shows as well as some up to the minute stuff, because that's really what the NBA is most valuable for. But we wanted to do it for our customers, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible. So good night. Very disappointing when it's like this. Could have used a rebound or anything in the last minute from Avdia or Banton, and just one more, half a point would have gotten me. A quarter of a half point wins me everything. So little tilting, but hey, it is what it is. There's so much variance, and the prize pool payouts, when they're 100K for first and 5K for fourth, and you're playing with tens of thousands of people, it's rough to win. So you got to kind of thread the needle. Almost thought I had it last night. I think everybody in that lineup was sub 10% owned except for one play. So I feel like we're on the right track. Hopefully we keep it going today and get a little bit of a better win. I'm going to jump over and turn into talking about today now. I'm going to go just through real quickly game by game, and I'll start on DraftKings, and then I'll go to FanDuel just to see what stands out as being so different. We obviously, as always, have some Q tags, but it's a 4-gamer. It's more manageable. I do still want to remind everybody you have to do the late swapping. It's such a huge advantage to have, and I really, really believe that. So you guys know the way I've been playing recently, basically like just adjusting the players that I want to projection-wise a little bit higher if I want a little more exposure. As of right now, I'm not touching anything, from the self-building out of the projections of the Toronto side. But I do like Quickly. Grady Dick is still cheap enough where I think we should be playing him. And I think Scotty Barnes is maybe going to be a little bit overlooked on this slate. So those would be my 3 favorites. If you want to talk me into Agbaji and Mogbo, certainly open to it, but it's not something I'm trying to go out of my way for. On the Philly side, I think Embiid is a terrific play here. I actually think this projection might be a little bit low, I could argue. Assuming this game stays close, I think he'll go crazy. I'm going to actually just bump him up. I might even bump him up a little bit more later. But outside of him, it's really hard for me to get to anything from the Philadelphia side. If you wanted to take a long shot play on Maxey, we've seen that work even with Embiid in there at 9,800. But for me, it's probably just Embiid and then nothing on the Philadelphia side. New York and Indiana, hard not to like Cat a little bit today. Again, this is the right kind of pace matchup. And New York plays, obviously a fairly tight rotation, and there is plenty of upside here. So I would be trying to get to one of Cat or Brunson. Actually, this projection on Brunson could be a bit higher for this matchup. Eastern Conference Finals rematch for those who don't remember, and I like Towns quite a bit. So I'm actually gonna keep these at a pretty hefty number. 50.4 is fine. We don't have to go any higher than that. That's a good reasonable one. But this also feels like a game where Josh Hart might have a big game. He's one I will bump up just a little bit. He always plays well in these fast-paced matchups, and it opens up a lot more for him, both in transition offensively and then defensively, just with the rebounding and everything. Do like him, and I don't mind the idea of getting to Anunoby or Bridges. Obviously, Anunoby still being questionable. We might even be more interested. But as of right now, a lot of interest in the Knicks side for today's slate. On the other side with Indiana, again, we've seen this matchup. It feels like a lot of times last year during the season, and then you had the long playoff series. I do like Halliburton. I'm going to put a little bump up on him. It's not going to be massive. I actually think the projection on him alone is already pretty good, but he's played well against these guys. It's sort of gone up and down for Halliburton a lot of this year. So playing him as chalk doesn't always feel right, but I do like him tonight. I'd like a run back because I have the other guys. I'm fine with Siakam or Turner, not going to touch their projections at all. And I'm fine with taking some shots on Neesmith. At some point, we're going to see these minutes start to trend back up. to mid-20s instead of the low 20s, and that's when I'll have even more interest. Matherin is a long shot tournament play, but not somebody I'm trying to get to in my first builds anyway. Detroit in Chicago. This should be a good one for fantasy. Both these teams play fast. Both these, especially the Chicago side, doesn't play much defense, but both teams struggle defensively a little bit. So I'm getting a lot of interest in a lot of different pieces of the Detroit side. Wow, a lot of projections updating at once. Starting off with Duran, I think he makes plenty of sense. 6,600 as a big against Chicago feels like the one who makes the most sense to me. Tobias Harris, I'm fine if I end up there, but I'm not actively trying to go out of my way. I prefer Asar Thompson. I prefer Cade Cunningham. And this, look, it's a small slate. If I'm going to play Hardaway for value, it's going to be on a slate like this. Still, don't want to go too far out of my way to get to he or Beasley, but they're both in my pool. And Ron Holland is another one that I think I actually could talk myself into gambling on if the game goes sort of wonky. So let me bump him up just a little bit to see if we can get to some more. And this is a very early, situation with the builds and everything. Obviously, there's always news that we don't even know about yet while they're going through shoot around. But on the other side, Kevin Huerter at 3,400, if they just traded for him, is going to be hard to ignore. I don't mind taking that gamble. We've got him at 21.9 minutes. I think there's room both up and down on those minutes. Really like this Buzelis. I think that we're going to keep riding him, just bumping up a little bit, making sure I get a little more exposure to him. Dosunmu, Giddey, and Kobe White. Of those, I prefer Giddey, and followed by Dosunmu, then White. But I think they're all totally in play. And then this is a great price on Vucevic and a really good matchup for him. Going to bump him up even a little bit more. And I think we're going to be getting a pretty decent amount of exposure to Chicago because of the lack of value. Playing Patrick Williams is certainly viable on this slate. Playing Patrick Williams is viable because of the lack of value, but so is Jalen Smith. So I like the idea of getting to one of Vooch or Smith in a good portion of my builds, and I just think it makes sense with how good the matchup is to try to be overexposed to that game, especially. I think it's going to be pretty popular as it is, but I will definitely be one of those eating a lot of that chalk. Memphis, who plays 7 million guys. Look, Ja Morant is 8,600. I know the minutes haven't been great. I know the production hasn't been awesome. I still like him in this matchup, and I will probably be the guy who, if he's the one who costs me money, I'll just be okay with it. Brandon Clark, because of the lack of the value, is showing up. No problem with that. If you're not playing Ja, I think one of Bane or Jackson. This is another good high-scoring, fast-paced matchup. Jackson and Bane are both a little bit interesting to me as well. GG Jackson as a tournament dart, I think, makes some sense. And then Vince Williams with the kind of a lot of ownership here. Not sure what I'm going to do with that one yet, but the other guys, I'm kind of okay with eating a good portion of that chalk. On the Phoenix side, which, they have the team that they didn't really want to end up with, but that's what happens. Bradley Beal out tonight. I think that means, pretty basically we're going to end up with a good amount of Durant. We're going to end up with a good amount of Devin Booker. And I'm just going to raise that. I think they could be, I think you'd argue for them going even a little higher. Bull is projected to play some minutes tonight. I think that I think I'm in on taking that gamble, but I think that Nick Richards is kind of an interesting pivot. I think that Nick Richards is going to get some minutes. I think these early projections ownership-wise are a little bit off, so I kind of want to let them balance out. But those are the two. I probably want to end up with Booker or Durant in most of my lineups. I probably want to end up with a couple Bulls in most of my lineups, with at least one from Detroit in most of my lineups, at least one from the Knicks in most of my lineups. And that's sort of the basis of how I'm going to be building today. I'm going to play with some builds and see what I get to later. But that was sort of just a quick first run through of the DraftKings side of the slate. We'll talk about FanDuel very quickly. Duran, just look, the prices are similar, but obviously there's more room on FanDuel because we have the extra position and the 10,000 extra to spend. Giddey looking even better over there. I still think that this Nick Richards projection is off, and I think there's a chance he plays a lot more minutes. So if this is right, my guess is I'd be getting to a lot of Richards right now from Saberson because they can see the ownership looks so low. I actually think he's going to end up more popular, and then Ja even more cheap on FanDuel. That's why I like playing him on DraftKings. He's just going to be significantly lower owned and definitely has that ceiling. As I mentioned with Durant, and I'd like to bump it up a little bit with both Durant and Booker. Because I do want to make sure I'm getting to at least one of them. And I think Booker's projection is a little low as it is. So move him up a couple points. Those are two that stood out. Nick Richards is one I'm going to probably go out of my way just because I want to speculate. They did trade for him, and I think that there's a chance that he ends up getting more of the minutes that he's not that we're not projecting him for currently. But it's mostly pretty much a very similar slate on both sites, outside of a couple different things, and those being the main ones. So should be fun. I'll be live at 6 Eastern to go over it. I will also pop into our Discord channel for all of our members, and we'll talk more up to the minute. We'll also talk about the late swap stuff in there. As long as I get the screen share to work through the Discord, that's the only thing I've had some issues with. But we'll get it straightened out and keep improving the product day by day. If you guys haven't been checking, check out Adam's videos. He's also going to be writing some content for us for some of the NHL and quote unquote the other sports. Brandon Cruz, NASCAR season's coming up again. You want to get your packages as soon as possible before we end up raising them, because we are going to have to raise them at some point. And Brandon Cruz, NASCAR is doing what does great things. And then obviously you've got me and Sheets for all the major sports, and then even the other ones. Sheets is like, what is he, the third ranked MMA player in the world now? We think we got a great team over here. A lot to like. Hopefully you can join us, and we're still making improvements and adding tools every day. So good luck to everybody. I hope you guys crush it today, and let's make some money.